I'm doing well, Hugh. How are you?
Great, great. Listen, brilliant to have you on the call, and welcome to the whole community as well. I think this is the first time we have chatted properly, Brian. So I'm going to pass it over to you to share with us your words of wisdom and whatever it is you want to be telling us. But certainly, I know from building relationships and building rapport, the title alone, Brian, jumps off the screen to me. So over to you.
Well, thank you, Hugh, and thank you everybody for being here at this time to hear the. As would you say it was wisdom, Hugh? I can't remember what it was you said it was, but
Oh yeah, wisdom.
um, so if it's all right with everybody, I'm going to talk only a little tiny bit about myself probably during the course of this and spend more time talking about what I think is very important for the world and for us as light workers. I think that's the term that John had used earlier. And the focal point of what I really wanted to talk about is this, what do we do to make connections and create conversations? And networking, like we're doing here, is a very important aspect to that experience. And I wanted to, based on some things that had shown up, I was traveling for several weeks during August, and when I came back to it, so I host a mastermind on Thursdays for budding entrepreneurs, and I had been, a lot of people couldn't wait to talk to me when I got back because they wanted to share with me an experience that was kind of non-positive that happened during the presentations there, the masterminds that were being held when I wasn't there. It wasn't a big deal, really. It just turned out that it was something that stood out and they wanted to make sure that it was talked about. And it came up as a very important thing, I think, in the conversations that people are having with each other is the distinction between how we show up in our roles and how other people show up in their roles and how we engage each other in those connections and conversations. And although we specifically started the idea of just hunting versus farming, I'd like to introduce a third term called trapping. So you could have a hunter, a trapper, and a farmer. And I'll define them very quickly and very loosely as a hunter is somebody whose next meal depends on what happens right now. A trapper is somebody who is collecting food for fairly soon consumption. And a farmer is somebody who is actually planting seeds or rearing or husbandry with animals or whatever the case may be. And so in our world as light workers, a lot of this depends on who we serve, how we serve, what we want to do in that service, and so on. But I also wanted to sort of add to the ideas that behind everything we do when it comes to those three efforts or processes inside of marketing and sales of our light worker businesses is that we have an agenda. And the agenda is are we serving customers? Are we building relationships with customers? Are we building relationships with partners? Or are we building relationships with somebody who may actually be a linker or a connector or a referral option for us? So think of those three distinct things. If you can hear that dog in the background, I apologize. So, and what I add to that is that whatever our agenda is and whatever the efforts are we're putting in, it's always going to be connected to our intent. And that really defines whether we're doing hunting, trapping, or farming, and whether or not we're serving customers, partners, or building relationships with customers, partners, or connectors. And so we either are serving ourselves, we're serving select bodies, select maybe portions of society, or select types of clients. And then we also might be thinking about a service to all model, which is can be very big. That's kind of what I do in my efforts. What it really is, all of these things in my journey have come down to, if I'm a hunter or a trapper or a farmer, and none of those are non-positive in of themselves, except that if I show up as needy, as it's about me, as if that next meal on my table is utterly dependent on this conversation I'm about to have, that party I'm talking to is very likely to sense that. And it becomes very uncomfortable for people to be in the position of feeling like they're part of the game. They're part of the hunted. And most people, when they smell that, they want out of the conversation as quickly as possible. So what I like to do is, and that's what happened while I was away, somebody was opportunistic in one of the masterminds and started selling to somebody. And it brought out the ideas is how do we foster the proper posture in our journeys so that we don't become a hungry hunter. We don't take shortcuts in our farming. We don't do trapping in our marketing models and our sales models in such a way that we are um, creating creepiness in the factor of our reach to people and our build and our eagerness to build connections and create conversations, and then ultimately out of those things for a lot of people transactions can be very important. So what is the difference in the posture? And this is how we'll sum it up, and then I'll tell you a little bit about me and how it connects to me and all this. But the the difference in each of these energies and how it can serve you and it can serve others is by virtue of whether or not you're showing up with ego or you're showing up in a posture of service. Um, when you're showing up for others, it's much easier. And I don't think there's anybody in this conversation that we're having here doesn't understand this. So it's just more like just summation of all these kinds of things that happen in our energies. Is if it's about our ego, there's often a component of fear, and people don't respond well to somebody else's fear. If I show up in service, it can be a component of love, and people can say this person cares. And you've probably even heard expressions. I think Maya Angelou said people will not remember what you did to them, they won't remember what you said to them, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that's, I think a lot of that comes about when we show up in a posture of love, we make them feel good, and we show up in a posture of fear or other related energies around fear, then they feel that too. So my mission, as you might have heard before, is to positively touch the lives of at least 1 billion people during my life, and I hope to leave a legacy so that continues after I'm gone. And it's about indirect and direct energy. I can't possibly shake the hands of 1 billion people mathematically and physically. That doesn't quite work out. So my responsibility to that mission is to make sure that I serve as many people as possible and helping them become positive touches in that experience by whatever information I can put into their hands, whatever narrative I can support them with, whatever story I share that makes it so they tell better stories, or whatever the case may be. My work is about helping people tell their stories. I have a media show for business called The Effective Way, which you see here. It's about doing business in a heart-centered way, and teaching other people how to incorporate those things. And in sort of that business model is the idea that you can have a win-win-win-win based type of business, so that money does exchange hands, and products do change hands, or services do change hands, and people aren't just cogs in a machine, that everybody is a contributor to the overall cost or overall benefits of the organization. So it's a win-win-win. So everybody comes out with the proper, if you want to use the words, rewards or energies or feelings about their work, or the capacity to love what they do, because the business is being operated in a win-win-win structure rather than the zero-sum game, winner-take-all model that so many people have been taught when they go to business school and things like that. So, and there are ways to operate a win-win-win heart-centered business, and that is exactly what's happening in the world today. The winning businesses are the ones who are stepping up and recognizing human beings as an important component, and not just capital to shove under, just like expensive assets or capital that they put into the process, and that they need to get every ounce of energy and squeeze every dollar out of them by not paying them as much, or whatever the case may be. And many of you have probably heard about the Great Resignation, or maybe you've even heard the term people who are quiet quitting, and all these other things that are taking place. And that's because people are sick and tired of just being a component in a machine, as opposed to an active player in serving the world. And that's the course of what my work's all about. And so and the way I do that for this kind of networking event is I have my shows, The Effective Way, which is about people who have heart-centered business postures to come on the show, show their strategies or tactics and their energies and all those things that help other businesses succeed, and help people build their business in that kind of heart-centered way. And then I also have a model for, which is called $1 Million Feeling, which is about positive living, personal transformation, and finding a happy journey in your lives. And I've been doing that. I did it as a 2.5-year broadcast radio show in the New York metropolitan area. And now I've converted that over to a video cast. And so when I come to networking events, I'm looking at how do I help that mission of getting to 1 billion people work out. I do it by having that show available to light workers and heart-centered business people and combinations thereof that would allow them to go out and express and showcase their energies and their business style and their messages and narratives and passions and so on. And so what I was like, what I really wanted to do is to talk about the idea for me is to avoid being transactional. I do receive money in the course of my work at times, but I just don't focus on it, and therefore I don't even have to concern myself. And money comes as I need it, and it works out very nicely in that particular process. So I don't focus on being transactional. I focus on embracing being the one for each person or as many people as possible during the course of my journey. So this impacts what we do here at Your Holistic Academy. And I belong to a lot of other networking groups, is that when, especially when I say showing up with the intent, checking my ego at the door, and how I'm going to be in service to others or be the one, it allows me to actually achieve, to lean in and actually be participating in that long-term mission that I have of serving at least 1 billion people positively. And in the end, I want to make sure that whatever your goals are, if I happen to be part of the equation with you, I help you succeed in that area as well. I have many businesses. I've been an entrepreneur for 50 years. I'm also a certified hypnotherapist. I am a neurolinguistic practitioning master. Those things are just tools that I use in leadership development and personal transformation. And I'm building out a platform to help others build out their platforms. So I hope that's a good summation of who I am as my energy, but also what I believe is an important message for all of us.
Super, Brian. Listen, thank you for that. Folks, listen, I'm just going to ask you for one moment. I know there's I was going to use a word slap.